Hi, I'm Dan, this is at Midlife Crisis Motorcyclist, and this is my first ever go on a Yamaha. The bike in question is of course the XSR900, the spawn of the MT-09 and the foundations for the XSR900 GP, which is getting everybody so excited at the moment. Now, this bike is probably a known quantity to a lot of people, but as I say, it's my first Yamaha, so I've been taking the opportunity to do a bit of swatting up, and I thought I'd share a bit about what I've learnt. Now, this is of course the second generation of the XSR900. This is based on, again, the second generation of the MT-09, which was introduced in 2021, which brought in a new frame, a bigger 890cc engine and a whole raft of changes. It also comes from a wider family of bikes, all sharing the same engine and frame, bits and bobs like that. That includes, of course, the GP that I mentioned and the Tracer 9, the kind of sports tourer. At their heart is this CP3 cross-plane triple, bit of a Yamaha signature that. It's got 119 horsepower in this bike. It's housed within this Delta Box aluminium frame, and the whole package, I think, makes for a really compelling blend of sort of aggro modern vibes like the MT-09 and a kind of retro feel. In terms of character, it's a little bit different from the MT-09 in terms of using the longer swing arm here from the Tracer 9. So the idea being that it's not only, shall we say, better looking than the MT-09, it's also got a slightly mellower nature because less inclined to kind of pop wheelies every time you crack the throttle, which is probably appropriate for a rider of my experience level. Now, in terms of where it sits in the market, it's quite an interesting sector, isn't it? Because you've got a wide variety of sporty nakeds, whether they're kind of modern or retro in their whole vibe, and a whole wide range of engines beyond just the parallel twins that seem to dominate every other sector of the market. You've got V-twins, triples, four cylinders, all sorts of bikes really. So it's quite an interesting corner of the market. What else might you buy if you were in the market for an XSR900? Well, I did a bit of kind of virtual shopping and thought about what else I might be shortlisting. Came up with things like maybe the Triumph Street Triple 765R, maybe a Ducati Monster, possibly a Kawasaki Z900 RS. All quite different bikes with different characters, but all of them kind of comparable in terms of price and performance. They've all got slightly different characters though, haven't they? Because obviously the Ducati is a V-twin, Yamaha and Triumph are triples, Kawasaki and maybe the Honda CB1000R you might also consider. They're four cylinders, bigger, burlier bikes, but you know, all variations on the theme, and all of them have got their own really attractive selling points. In terms of cost, the XSR900 starts at about £10,700, maybe a smidge over. That's about 600 quid more than the MT-09, and it's about £1,000 or so more than that Triumph Street Triple 765R, which, although it's down on capacity, is certainly comparable in terms of its power output and its performance. Inevitably, it's quite a bit cheaper than the Ducati, and also cheaper than the Kawasaki, which is a bike I'd really like to try at some point as well. Most significantly, it's nearly 1,800 quid less than the GP version, which, given it's basically just this bike with a fairing, is quite a big chunk of money, isn't it? And overall, the package looks pretty much just as appealing. The build quality and the finish on the bike looks really impressive, especially when you consider the price. I love these kind of gold KYB forks here, little details like the bar end mirrors, the Marboro-not-Marlboro livery looks fantastic. There's loads of little details like this clip here. The whole package looks absolutely fantastic. But does it ride as good as it looks? Well, only one way to find out. Right, so here I am. My first ride on a Yamaha. Very exciting. Particularly exciting for it to be on this bike as well. I mean, there's a certain burden of expectation based on the way it looks. So, can it deliver? Let's give it a go. Oh my god. Well, I'm going to say, first impressions are pretty good. I've heard a lot about this Yamaha CP3 triple. You know, I read a lot of reviews of the MT-09, the Tracer 9, and of course the XSR900 GP. Everybody raves about this engine, and I can see why. It's an absolute cracker. It feels like it's got it all. It's got grunt, it's got revs, it's got a really ferocious sound to it, and what I like about it as well is there's a bit of kind of fizz in there as well. So although it's smooth in that triple way, in a bit like the Triumph Trident I've ridden previously, there's just a little bit of kind of buzz in it as well, which makes it feel really exciting. It sends a kind of a whole fizz through the whole bike, which when you combine with the excitement of the power delivery, it's just, well, like I say, I can see why people rave about it so much. And it works beautifully with this gearbox with a quick shift as well. I mean, I like changing gear myself usually, but the ability to just knock it down a gear like that and then flick of the foot when you're kind of concentrating on a road like this one definitely makes it easier to kind of get to grips with the bike and concentrate on the stuff you should be concentrating on. So in terms of powertrain, this bike has got off to a very, very strong start with me, I've got to say. So yeah, believe the hype when it comes to the engine. But the rest of the bike feels like a pretty strong package as well. I really like the suspension, not just because it's gold and got nice machine bits on the top of the yokes there. There's a kind of, although it's a sporty setup, it's a sporty naked, there's a kind of compliance there in the kind of mid-stroke of the suspension, which is really nice. It feels like there's great balance as well. There's not kind of pitching when you on and off the throttle or on the brakes. The bike just seems to move, fork and shock at the same time in a really balanced way. And this is as I picked the bike up from Yamaha. I've not messed around with any of the settings. This is just straight out of the box. So that's pretty impressive. And all the controls just feel really, really nice. I'm assuming this is a Brembo brake lever. It seems to have a Brembo logo on it, but the reach of it, the kind of lack of slop, the response to the brakes, everything just seems to be really nicely harmonized. Let's just get around this last one. And as you can see, there is no lack of performance. I've got to say, I think 119 horsepower, if this isn't the most powerful bike I've ridden yet, certainly feels the most feisty. And if this XSR900 is the kind of grown-up and mature take on the MT-09, then wow, this is one feisty bike. It's also really friendly and chuckable. It feels nice and small, very low under you, the front end. It's not a sports bike. You're not over the front end like you probably would be on the GP with its clip-ons, but it's just a nice kind of neutral position, sporty without being bum in the air, upright without being too kind of sit up and beg. Puts you in the centre of the bike, and I think maybe for a taller rider like myself, the fact there's a bit more length in this XSR900 compared with the MT09, I think that probably makes it feel just a bit more wieldy, a bit more, I fit in the bike rather than perched on top of it, which is obviously a very confidence-inspiring way to be. And I think confidence-inspiring, again, I go back to the suspension, because the damping feels so good. The contact patch, the tyres, is kept consistent, so whether that's on turning in for the corner or under the power, there's none of the kind of fluttering over the bumps that would cause the tyres to kind of break contact with the road. So confidence inspiring in terms of the kind of chuckability of it, confidence inspiring in terms of you feel the tyres have got consistent contact with the road surface. So what have we got? We've got fantastic engine, great suspension, nice controls, confidence inspiring handling. All in all, it's a pretty convincing package. I got to say, even with just a few miles under my belt on the bike, everything feels super dialed in and really, really enjoyable. Enjoyable's the word. It's just, even if you decide to change gear yourself just for the hell of it, it's a nice gearbox to use, so why wouldn't you? I've got to say, on these kind of first impressions, this is a really compelling package. I mean, it's up against some strong competition as well. I'd love to try some of the other bikes in the class, like that Ducati Monster and the Triumph 765. But yeah, the Ducati, the Triumph, that Kawasaki Z900 RS, another really, really strong looking bike. But I think in combination with that kind of the retro looks but with the modern underpinnings, I think this XSR900, as I say, it just seems like a complete package. And if I were shopping around for a bike in this class, it's setting a pretty high benchmark from the off. And as a first introduction to the brand as well, it's a strong first impression. So I'm sorry, if you were hoping for a kind of in-depth, kind of critical appraisal of the XSR900, you've come to the wrong place. This bike has really, really impressed me straight out of the box. I've not played with any of the rider modes or anything like that. I just chose the setting the guy from Yamaha said was the best one. I've just gone for it, and what an absolute blast. So there we go. First impressions of Yamaha, first impressions of the XSR900. I think I rather like both. So there we go, a slightly breathless and excited first ride on a Yamaha. What did I think? Well, you probably got the gist from the video. I rather liked it. I'm still at the point in my riding career where I'm trying to figure out what kind of motorcyclist I am, what kind of bikes I like. I think I quite like ones like this, based on this first impression. So yeah, it's a really, it's a great package. As I said in the commentary, you know, everything about the bike just seems to work together, and it all just puts a massive smile on your face. Even when you park up and just stop and look at it, still keeps putting a smile on your face. And let's face it, that's what you want from a motorcycle, isn't it? So yes, I have to say my first impression of Yamaha is a pretty favourable one. I'd be very interested to try some of the other bikes in the family as well, like the MT-09, the Tracer 9, which everybody seems to love, and of course the GP with the fairing and the kind of racier position with the clip-ons and all that kind of stuff. But as a kind of an introduction to the brand and to this family of CP3 triples, this XSR900 has been an absolute blast. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure you hit like, subscribe for more like it if you haven't already. Join me in the comments if you've got any questions or just want to chat about the bike or anything else. And for now, I'll say thanks for watching, goodbye, and ride safe.